He didn't lose everything. He set it on fire, the comfort, the safety, the illusion of control. He didn't walk away from the life he knew, he destroyed it. And the most terrifying part, you've thought about doing the same, because deep down, you know comfort is a slow death. And sometimes, the only way to live is to burn. There comes a moment, silent and unannounced, when comfort stops feeling like safety and starts to feel like a trap. It's not sudden. It creeps in. You wake up tired, but you're not sleep deprived. You laugh, but it's hollow. You work, but something in you is dying with every passing day. You've built a life that looks good on paper. Stable. Predictable. Quiet, but behind the curtain, your soul is begging for something real. Something raw. You've tried to silence that voice. With routines. With obligations. With distractions, but it keeps whispering, this isn't it. And one day, he stopped ignoring it. He looked at the life he had, the paycheck, the apartment, the carefully curated version of who he was supposed to be, and saw it for what it was, a prison built out of comfort. He didn't pack his bags. He didn't write a goodbye letter. He didn't wait for a sign. He struck the match, because sometimes the only way to change is to let the old you burn. This isn't a story about a breakdown. It's about awakening. It's about the brutal choice to kill the lie you're living before it kills you. He burned every comfort he had. And what rose from the ashes was something terrifying and true. Most people don't change because things are bad. They change because the truth becomes unbearable. Comfort is seductive. It tells you you're okay. That there's nothing wrong. That your suffering is just stress. That your emptiness is just a phase, but comfort isn't neutral. It's corrosive. It numbs your instincts. It dulls your edges. It keeps you just satisfied enough to stay still, but never alive enough to feel free. And when he realized this, when he saw that the life he built was a coffin wrapped in convenience, he didn't make a pros and cons list. He made a fire. He let go of the job that gave him security. He walked away from people who loved the version of him that kept their world intact. He said goodbye to every part of himself that made others comfortable, even if it meant standing completely alone. The theme isn't rebellion. It's rebirth. To find who you are, you may have to destroy who you've been. The comfort you cling to might be the very thing keeping you from becoming who you were meant to be. This isn't motivation. This is a reckoning. And the question is simple, what would you be if you stopped pretending to be fine? It started with silence, not dramatic. Not cinematic. Just silence. No notifications. No morning rush. No pretending. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. Because the truth was, he didn't know. He just knew where he couldn't stay. There's a kind of loneliness that comes when you leave everything behind. But it's not the kind that hurts. It's the kind that reveals. At first, he missed the noise. The patterns. The identities that kept him stitched together, but then, something strange happened. Without the expectations, without the masks, without the script, he began to hear his own voice again, not the voice shaped by fear. Not the one tuned for approval. The one buried under years of compromise. He sat with it. In forests. In empty rooms. In darkness. He asked questions most people never have the courage to face. Why do I feel like I'm disappearing? What part of me did I kill to be accepted? Would anyone still love me if I showed them who I really am? The answers didn't come quickly. And they didn't come gently, they came like storms. Like screams under the skin. Like mirrors he couldn't look away from. He faced his ambition, not the polished kind, but the kind that made him feel monstrous. The hunger to matter. The thirst to be seen, even if it meant being feared. He faced his failures. Not the ones on his resume. The real ones. The friendships he let rot. The chances he never took. The self-respect he sold for belonging. He faced his shame. The nights he said, "I'm fine," when he wanted to scream. The years he stayed quiet when his soul was breaking. The lie he lived so long, he almost believed it. There's a reason most people never do this. It breaks you not once, over and over, and every time you rise a little less afraid. He learned that freedom isn't found in the wild. It's forged in the fire, in discomfort, in solitude, in truth. And no one claps for you when you disappear to heal. No one celebrates when you walk away from a life that looks successful. But he didn't want applause anymore. He wanted peace. Real peace. Not the fake smile kind. Not the everything's fine kind. The peace that comes when nothing owns you. Not money. Not image. Not fear. He lived in places most people avoid. Rooms without screens. Beds without warmth. Days without direction. He found that the absence of comfort is the presence of clarity. Every time he resisted the urge to run back, to call an old friend, to reopen a closed door, to resurrect a dead dream, he came closer to something real. He stopped measuring time in hours. He started measuring it in honesty. Was I true to myself today? That was the only clock he followed. He didn't become fearless. He just stopped letting fear make decisions. He didn't become successful. He became aligned, and that's rarer, and harder, and lonelier. But when you've burned everything false, what remains is fireproof. The man who burned his comforts didn't become a hero. He became whole, not healed. Not perfect, but whole. He carries his scars like scripture now. Proof that he was once lost but brave enough to not stay that way. You don't need to follow his path. But if you're still pretending, still shrinking, still waiting for a permission slip to be who you are, ask yourself this: what would happen if you stopped running from the fire and walked into it? Because maybe the part of you you're afraid to lose was never really you. You weren't born to be tolerated. You weren't made to live on mute. They taught you to play small because your truth was too loud. You call it being responsible. But it's really just fear dressed up as logic. How many times did you lie to yourself just to be loved? How many dreams did you bury to feel safe? How many pieces of your soul did you trade for a chair at someone else's table? You're not tired. You're misaligned. Stop waiting for life to get louder and start listening to the silence inside you. It's not too late to burn. It's too late not to. He didn't walk into the fire to prove a point. He walked in because he was already burning from the inside out. The comfort wasn't comfort anymore. It was suffocation. Every smile felt scripted. Every plan felt borrowed. Every breath felt like it belonged to someone else. So he did the only thing left to do. He tore it all down, and in the ruins, he didn't find clarity right away. He found silence, emptiness, pain, but also space, stillness, room to rebuild. He didn't become enlightened. He became honest about the rage, the guilt, the grief, the unbearable need to feel alive again. He learned that growth doesn't feel like winning. It feels like grieving, because when you change, something has to die, and often, it's the version of you everyone else loved. But in letting that version go, he found someone else waiting beneath the rubble, himself, unfiltered, unapologetic, unbreakable, and now, he walks differently. Not faster, not stronger, just real. And that's what this was always about: not building a better life, but building a life that belongs to him. Maybe you're not ready to strike the match. That's okay. But ask yourself, what's really keeping you warm? Comfort, or a lie you've lived too long? When the time comes, you'll know, and when you do, don't be afraid of the fire. Be afraid of never feeling it at all. If this lit something inside you, don't let it go dark again. Share this with someone still trapped in the silence. Someone who needs permission to burn. Or be that someone yourself. You owe it to the truth. You owe it to you.